They know everything. They don't.
That's Kristen Stewart as Princess Diana in the trailer for Spencer, a film that reimagines the princess's final days in the royal family. And joining us now to talk about the film, I'm delighted to say, is Kristen Stewart herself. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you for asking.
Congratulations on the film.
Thanks.
3 seconds of a clip, I wouldn't normally mention it, but 3 seconds of just your accent kind of went viral crazy. How was that for you?
Well, when I first saw the initial trailer, which is actually called a teaser, very aptly, I was like, wow, they really know, they really know, like, you know, how to be mysterious. I was like, of course, just one little word at the end of the thing, because I know that that's obviously a large portion of the conversation regarding the movie is the accent. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad people are anticipating. But I did think that look, I think the trailer is great. I just was like, oh, come on, give him like one more line. Yeah.
What was your reaction when they talked to you about playing Princess Diana?
Initially, I spoke to Pablo before Pablo, who directed the film,
Yeah.
and I hadn't read the script yet. He just called me up and basically said, would you consider the idea of tackling this subject? And it was before I knew that the script was kind of very embedded in her perspective, and that it is sort of more of a tone poem than anything pedantic. It doesn't profess to know anything really. And so I, at first I was like, oh, this is like, not only is it kind of like chartered territory at this point, it's like just a salacious topic. It's just something that makes people go wild. And having really not had an enormous interaction or relationship to the royal family as an entity, or Diana as anything more than a really sparkly figure that it was always, is very sort of attractive. I said yes because I thought it was scary and ambitious, and I hadn't even read the script yet, and I was like, yeah, because I really respect Pablo. I love his movies. And I thought that if at this stage in your kind of career as an artist, as absolutely wanky as that sounds, if you're not saying yes to things that seem impossible, then stop doing it. I just sort of was like, usually like I kind of have to weigh my abilities before I say yes to a part. It's like irresponsible to be like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. I don't know if I can. Usually I like tell someone, hey, trust me. I know I can do this. Like I need to do this. I'm compelled. I didn't feel that way before I did this movie because I really did not know if I could do it. But I said yes irresponsibly, and was glad I did.
What's scary and impossible about it? Is it just that like the pressure that comes with inhabiting someone so well known?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, very simply, yes. And I guess very obviously the accent is, so much a part of her. It's not just the accent, it's the way she spoke. She just had such a particular voice and way of being and moving through the world, and such a disarming presence. I mean, like her casual nature is so disarming and palpable. I think that everything I've ever seen of her feels like it's just vibrating, and like I just feel like when you watch interviews with her or you see her walk out of a building and into a car, you just like never know what's going to happen. And that's something that, that she was just born with. And, that's in talking about it, you realize it's like, well, can I play this incredible, amazing, attractive, like beautiful, empathetic Mother Teresa figure? I don't know.
Sure,
like,
sure I can. Yeah, no
itself,
problem.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. What I find interesting about
like me.
what I find interesting about what you said there, though, is that we only really got to see her walking from the car to the hotel, or we only got to see her walking down the line, shaking hands with people. And your job in this film was to imagine what happened when she was away from the cameras, when she was with the royal family, when she was with her children, when she was on her own. How do you go about imagining? And I know you've played real, true stories before. How do you go about imagining that for Diana?
I mean, luckily the script was so well drawn and so precisely written and so poetic that it was very easy to project feelings about it, and never feel like there was a very particular mark to hit, but just that in doing all of the research and reading everything and kind of trying to absorb her the best that I could, and having luckily the time to do it and prepare technically and like learn the accent and try and get her sort of physicality right, and you know, she was always in public when we saw her, so there is affectation, there's like there are little manipulations, weird things that are just embedded in her and that are very indicative of a very complicated person. And then luckily we also have just innumerable perspectives. Everyone wrote a memoir, everyone has an opinion, whether they're an insider or an outsider, and we kind of absorbed that the best that we could and then completely forgot it. Yeah, like it's, you know, I think I never felt like, oh, we need to make sure that we get this detail in there. I just felt like the right ones would seep in, and then not feel overt or kind of like a just sort of bad impersonation. But like, yeah, imagining the one thing that I get very clearly from her is her ability to keep the little bubble around her and her boys. Like it just felt like the truest version of her, the most like unbridled, unconditional aspect of her. The one thing that felt sure, the one thing that she knew was how to be a mom. It was innate, animalistic. I felt it was her. It was anytime she was with her boys, I felt like you can't touch that. And I think other people felt it too. I think the press felt it. I think it, you know, it's you can see that it's sort of like she wasn't great at protecting herself, but she was like just such a good mom. And that was again daunting. I'm not a mom yet, but I just felt that so strongly. I thought that we would not have done our jobs even close to correct unless we got that, unless we really nailed that kind of three-headed animal organism that they are in pictures.
I think there's a kind of a misnomer when it comes to people like yourself playing real life characters, that oftentimes the language people like me will use is you inhabit Princess Diana, right? But from the way you're talking, Kristen, so far, like it really does feel like she sort of, I don't want to get spooky about it, but it feels like she sort of inhabited you, you know?
I mean, like I'm not the most specifically spiritual person, but like even if it's all totally taking place in my head, I could never stop thinking about her. And she just felt so alive to me the entire time we were making this movie that I think there was like probably 3 times a week that I would suddenly be crushed by the idea that she was no longer with us.
Like you
just
grieved her while
all the
playing
time.
her, yeah.
Constantly. I just couldn't believe it. I because you know, our story is like a survivor story. We get to the end of this thing and it's like we're running, we are going, and we all know what happened in the last 2 years of her life. And she did achieve a bit of agency. I mean, you know what I mean? Like she definitely, like her legacy is strong and it is clearly present. And you know, she changed things. Like, you know, we're dealing with this story at this precipice moment and sort of like thinking about what it must have taken to make such a you know, such a big choice like that. So whatever, it would just suddenly occur to me and I would just like lose it. And, you know, call that whatever you want. Maybe I'm projecting, maybe I'm sort of imagining, even if it's a total fantasy. There were times where, you know, the camera would stop rolling and it was like in a moment where it would be like, are you kidding me? And I always attributed it to like weird, spooky Diana stuff. Always.
There's I don't want to make too much out of this, but I'm stuck on the idea that what we saw from Diana was her walking to a hotel. What we saw from Diana is walking from a car to a house, right? And you know, we think in the public that we know people from seeing pictures of them and reading about them in the media. But I mean, you know, almost more than just about anybody, that's not reality. That's not reality, right? And I want to be clear about something so Diana wrestles underneath being in a micro. I don't want to give anything away, but being under a microscope in this film. Mm-hmm. And British royal celebrity is very different than being a actor and a movie star or whatever. But could you relate to that feeling?
I find my impression of Diana is, you know, sort of amalgamation of all the pictures and things that I've seen of her, but I don't think that you know, it's weird because like a part of me is like, I know my version of her very, very well. And that is not wrong. No one's version of you is wrong because it's like, you know, pictures aren't fake. I mean, you're like, whatever, we are reflected in a certain sense, but you know, you're never getting the whole story. You never know. It's like when you have friends that are dating and you're like, he's not good for you. And it's like, well, you're not in that relationship. It's like the most irresponsible, stupid thing to say. And you only really realize that as you get older. And like, I don't know. I think her desire to be seen and connect with people and reach out and her palpable craving also doesn't coincide with her wanting to shut down and protect herself. It's like this weird dichotomy. And I can relate to that, is feeling like I want to control how people see me, but then also I want to get naked in public and do movies where I completely reveal myself totally, but then, you know, not all the time. It's like you just want a little bit of agency and control over that. And I think when I tried to control, you know, as I got older and I realized that you kind of can't, what you can control is kind of just your own experience, and realize that the attention and the way that people sort of perceive you is very ephemeral. And if you don't look at it, it doesn't exist. You can kind of function in a way that, you know, it doesn't touch you, and you can kind of pick and choose your interactions. But yeah, no, I do know the feeling of kind of feeling like everyone's wrong. Like nobody knows me.
So in that way, it was sort of a powerful lesson for me in my own gaze. And what I kind of wanted from Diana. We don't have a whole lot of time. I want to go back to something you said at the very beginning, where I actually did a little bit about, you know, how you felt about taking this role on. And you said, you know, at this stage, something along the lines of like, at this stage in my career, I was looking for like an adventure. I was looking for a challenge. I was looking to scare myself. What does a script need to have for you to take it on at this stage where more opportunities are available to you?
I've gone through different stages of kind of going towards things, even if, you know, maybe I'm more protective now. I'm a little bit more precious than I used to be. And I used to be really prideful in the fact that I sometimes would do a project and I knew it wasn't going to be very good, but there was just one scene I wanted to do. Like, it was just like, I just really want to do that one scene, and like the rest of it, who cares? I just want to have that one day. But now I kind of, I'm like, you need to stop doing that. No, but now I, you know, movies can, I'm not as interested in and this actually is, this Spencer is a perfect example of this kind of, sums up the idea that I am so impressed with. I'm so impressed with movies that feel incredibly internal and aren't plot heavy and exterior. Sometimes the way that we communicate with each other, there are limitations to how you can externalize your inner life. And I think that cinema, it sounds very pretentious, but I love it. It, you know, it allows you to, like, you know, with any art form, it allows you to kind of go inside. And so I think we're in this beautiful kind of period where, you know, women are allowed to really find voice and be weird and honest about what it feels like to be alive with a female body. And I don't think that we've remotely even scratched the surface of what that feels like, what it looks like, what it smells like, what it tastes like. Like, I just think that like we've really kind of been neutered for a long time. I want to see like girl coming of age stories. I want to see people disgusting and embarrassing and sweaty and like, you know, I just think right now, top to bottom, when I look at things, I feel a newness in film right now that is exciting. And it's kind of hard for me to describe. I don't know if I'm like quite smart enough to exactly put my finger on it right now, but I mean, the next movie I'm doing is literally a love story about a satellite and a buoy. And it's just the internet falling in love with itself. It's called Love Me. And it's so itself and it's so strange. And I think it really, really does look at like who we are right now. And I guess, I don't know. I mean, I just want to do good movies and things that move me. But yeah.
I mean, who we are, and I only got time for one more question with you. It's been lovely to talk with you. And maybe who we are is one of the questions I sort of came away with watching this film, or who Diana was. And I don't want, it's important that I don't want to give too much away, and I'll wrap like this. At the end of the film, we see Diana leave the royal family, and there's this beautiful moment where she reclaims her own name. She reclaims the name Spencer, you know, the title of the film. I wonder if that act of reclaiming, the empowerment that comes of reclaiming, meant something to you as a person, or I guess, or as an actor. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you don't feel like you've actually gone anywhere. Do you know what I mean? I think that when she says her name at the end of the movie, you've felt that all along. It's like you've just wanted her to say it. So yeah, I think, you know, whenever you find yourself very honestly in your body and recognizable and kind of undeniable, it always feels like you're kind of getting back to who you are. And then you realize, like, maybe I didn't go anywhere. Maybe I've been here all along. But it's a really wonderful feeling to sort of like fall right into your body and go, boom, there I am. And I think you have that throughout life. Occasionally, like it happens in stages, you know, and I think, yeah, it's definitely a cool subject to make a movie about. It's even cooler to feel in real life.
It's joy to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise.
Kristen Stewart was my guest. She plays Princess Diana in the new film Spencer. It's screening at the Toronto International Film Festival and will be in theaters for all to see.